Aisai Gusuyo, everyone. My name is Pat Miyashiro, your Hawaii United Okinawan Association, known as the HUOA 2021 President. Tonight we have a special tribute, Irei No Hi, Okinawa's Memorial Day, done by our Club Development Committee headed by Mr. Eric Nitta, one of our Vice Presidents of the Hawaii United Okinawan Association. This year's Irei No Hi Committee is co-chaired by Eric's daughter, Amanda Nitta, and Jacob Higa. Other committee members include Madison Miyashiro, Kyra Pila, Cody Kaneshiro, and Cheyne Tanoue. I want to thank all the participants who gave their time to make everyone aware of the significance of how this battle affected the people of Okinawa and now its effect on the younger generation. Please enjoy tonight's program. Ipe Nihe Debiru.
May I ask everyone to join me in a moment of meditation in memory of those who died during the Okinawa War over 75 years ago. Please join me in the moment meditations. I will recite the name of wisdom and compassion in memory of those who died during the Okinawa War in 1945. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you so much, everyone. As you know, that 76 years ago of June 23, 1945, the Battle of Okinawa ended with many sacrificed lives, both US and Japan. The battle lasted 82 days and more than 12,000 Americans were killed or missing in action. The highest number lost in a single battle in the Pacific War. More than 70,000 Japanese soldiers and civilians caught in the crossfire bore the highest toll. Perhaps as many as 100,000 to 150,000 Okinawan men, women, and children lost their very precious lives during the near 3 months of fighting. Today, Hawaii Okinawa United Association observed the 23rd Okinawa War Memorial Service, in Japanese, Irei No Hi, in memory of all victims during the Battle of Okinawa. There are soldiers of the US and Japan, civilians, fathers, mothers, children, oji-chan, oba-chan, and many other innocent people who lost their very precious and unrepeatable lives. They didn't want to die, I'm sure. They didn't want to lose their families. They didn't want to lose their babies. And they wanted to have a peaceful, just ordinary life, what we are spending in this moment. War destroys everything and human dignity. I strongly against the war and any violence to destroy all sentient beings. Life is living together with others. Life is in this moment. I mean, we are all interconnected together, interdependency. This concept came from essence of Buddhism. Because of you, I am what I am. Because many people, both seen or unseen blessings, I am what I am. 25 years ago, the Okinawa War, the many people were killed. But we have to remember, even though they already died, but we still connected to everyone's life. Because of their life of sacrifice or dedications, we are here today to observe this Irei No Hi, Okinawa Battle Memorial Service. Buddha Dharma is always emphasizing us to see what we are. I am what I am because of many people in the past. In closing, I'd like to ask everyone to join me together in a moment meditation for closing meditation. Peace begins with each of us. Peace begins with respect each of our lives. Peace begins with listening of the Buddha Dharma. Buddhism is a teaching of peace and harmony. Buddhism is a teaching of respect. Buddhism is a teaching of compassion. Peace in the world with the Buddha's name and Buddha Dharma. Namo Amida Butsu. May the Amida Buddha's great wisdom and compassion always be our loved ones, those who died during the war, the Okinawa. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
Many lives were lost during the Battle of Okinawa. Tonight, we hope to convey our thoughts and reactions related to what our ancestors endured during the Battle of Okinawa, discuss the personal accounts of survivors, and seek an understanding of the Okinawan people's desire for peace. Before we begin, we would like to introduce our committee, comprised of young adults between the ages of 19 to 23. We will take you on our journey of learning about the Battle of Okinawa and the lasting impacts it had on its people and culture.
My name is Higa, and I attend the University of Hawaii West Oahu, and I serve as the co-chairperson for this event.
My name is Nitta, and I attend the University of Hawaii at Manila, and I serve as the co-chairperson for this event.
Hi, my name is Kyra Pila, and I currently attend Creighton University.
My name is Madison Miyashiro, and I graduated from University of Washington, Bothell.
My name is Cody Kaneshiro, and I graduated from the University of Hawaii at Manoa.
My name is Cheyne, Tanoue, and I graduated from University of Hawaii at Manoa.
We're all members of HUOA Irei Creative Arts, and we're encouraged by HUOA Vice President Eric Nitta to work on this year's Irei No Hi project. This journey enabled us to learn more about our heritage. We would like to thank our advisors, Mrs. Gwen Fujie, Executive Director, Mr. John Tomorrow, HUOA President, Mr. Patrick Miyashiro, and President-elect, Mr. David Jones. We would also like to thank Mr. Chris Miyamura and Mr. Copeland Talkington for all their assistance in recording our interviews. We are very excited to present to you Irei No Hi through the eyes of the younger generation.
Our purpose tonight is to convey the significance of the Battle of Okinawa, a tragic event that left lasting effects upon our ancestors. We seek to educate our generation and those that follow. These stories and many others that we were not able to uncover should be remembered by future generations to come.
To begin this year's Irei No Hi event, we would like to share a little bit of background and history about the Battle of Okinawa.
The Battle of Okinawa was one of the bloodiest and harshest episodes of World War II. Local Okinawan citizens were caught in the crossfire and ended up suffering the most. However, the endurance, humanity, and most of all, the perseverance of the Okinawan people serve as our role models. In August 1944, less than a year before the battle had arrived on the shores of Okinawa, Japanese soldiers occupied the island and prepared for war. Civilians were told that the war would be coming to Okinawa following Saipan. The Japanese soldiers sent the young men and boys from town to town to build military bases for the Japanese forces, even children and women. The Japanese soldiers stayed at the civilians' houses during this process and forced civilians to leave their homes and find shelter elsewhere. This led to civilians having to walk miles to find shelter in caves and the forest.
で、家族の人は上座と上の座と中座全部兵隊に提供です。無料ですね。そして皆さん家族の人が小さい台所でですね、こんな狭いお家の中、狭いお家で台所に我々が寝てました。覚えてます。
So each family had to host about 10 Japanese soldiers. So the family members needed to give up the bedrooms and living rooms so that the soldiers could rest, and all the family members had to sleep in the kitchen. Even though I was 7, I still remember how challenging it was to host Japanese soldiers in the house.
What would you folks do if a stranger, let alone a soldier, came into your house and took it by force? Cheyne, what would you do?
Me? Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't know what to do.
I wouldn't know what to do either.
It's hard to imagine when a stranger just comes into your house and you entrust your well-being into them.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, seeing these things, you see these things in movies, like war movies and everything, but for me, I don't know, I can't imagine anybody walking into my house and just saying that, taking it over, you know?
This would be completely unacceptable today.
Yeah. That must take a huge emotional toll on all the civilians, and this was needed in order to survive. I can't imagine what it's like to live through such unprecedented times.
The Battle of Okinawa had officially begun on April 1st, 1945. The United States had invaded Okinawa under the impression they're invading the Japanese, resulting in the bloodiest battle in the Pacific theater. April 1st, 1945 also marks the day of Tetsu no Ame, also known as the Typhoon of Steel. For days, the Okinawans were hit by missiles from the US ships offshore. And at the initial start, they thought it was gray snow. This was the start of many more hardships yet to come. The Japanese military combatants wore casual Okinawan attire to blend in with the civilian population, which led to many innocent deaths. Those who spoke Uchinaguchi were seen as spies, and thus leading to more innocent lives being taken. Due to all of this, many Okinawans decided to hide within caves scattered throughout Okinawa. These caves sheltered not only the adults, but also the children, all of whom were facing starvation, along with fearful thoughts about ending their own lives. Many Okinawans and their families decided that it would be for the best to take their own lives, leaving small groups of survivors to get through these traumatic memories with perseverance for the numerous days to come. The Imperial Japanese Army recruited Okinawan students to join the front. Students were to become either soldiers or nurses to assist in the war. Female student nurses from the Okinawa Daiichi Women's Hawaii School and Okinawa Shihan Women's School came together to form a nursing unit for the Imperial Japanese Army. This group of females was known as the Himeyuri Gakitotai, or the Lily Princesses Student Corps. This corps consisted of 222 students and 18 teachers. Males ages 14 to 19 were recruited to become soldiers and were further mobilized by the Imperial Japanese as members of the Nateketsu Kinotai, known as the Iron and Blood Corps. Students and educators were forced to be a part of the war and thus had to persevere through the many hardships and traumas brought by warfare.
HUOA Irei No Hi.
Thank you. How old were you during the war?
戦争中はおいくつだったんですか
7歳。
7 years old.
私の名前は千代久永97歳です。
春子ロイス小橋川です。小橋川です。よろしくお願いします。私が10歳の時に沖縄の戦争でした。
My name is Emma Sakiyama Smith, and I'll be talking about my mother, Fujiko Tokumori Smith.
My name is Shigeko Nakasone. I'm 5 years old. My age is almost 88 years old.
I can't even imagine how people that were younger than us had these experiences, like going through the war and having to survive on their own. And it makes me think how lucky I am to be living in the world we live in now and having the problems that we have now instead of what they went through.
with the survivors being so young at that time, it's very interesting to see that all the memories and stories are very vivid and very traumatic. I can only remember memories that are fun or enjoyable. I don't think I can recall a story that's as tragic as theirs.
Yeah, it would be hard to remember a tragic story like that. But, you know, even more young people survived, so.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that, like, them being able to go back to normalcy. I would find it hard for myself to bring myself to continue with normal life following the war.
I personally wouldn't choose to remember these events that happened, but you know, I think we have to respectfully thank these interviewees for taking the time and sharing these memories with us.
The Battle of Okinawa looked very different in the eyes of those from the north and south of Okinawa. In the north, the civilians had traveled miles on foot to find caves for days and at times weeks. These people had suffered through malnutrition and starvation. Newborn babies were neglected due to the conflict, which led to many newborn casualties. Even after death, mothers still carried their babies through it all, a memory that will forever be ingrained. In the south, the war continued to progress after landing in Yomitan and Chitan. Similar to Hawaii, Okinawa has many terrain ridges, and each ridge had its own battle that was a significant turning point of the battle. Although some battles may be more well known than others, all battles shouldn't be forgotten. As the battles moved down south, there was a mass devastation everywhere. The Japanese soldiers had set off bombs in the caves, in some instances, leaving those to die of gas suffocation. There were also cases where soldiers entered caves and gave civilians grenades to kill themselves, and told them that it was better to die as a family, leading to many families committing suicide. The civilians continued to die in the caves since there was the continued belief that Americans had no good intentions.
だから道のそばにはお母さんはもう亡くなってるからお母さんのおっぱいしゃぶっての死んで膨れてるんですよ。それだからまた中には同じように南部へ移動するときに赤ちゃんをおぶってるけど赤ちゃんの首ないんですよ。これ覚えてるんですよ、僕。おぶったままみんな誰も注意もしない。もう自分のことで精一杯ですから死んだ人のお腹を踏むとそれも道徳観念も全然ないですね。平気でも自分がどうしたらこの激戦から逃れるかとそういった後から誰も注意しなかったですね。
I still remember a young child trying to cuddle with her dead mother. Even though the mother is dead, the young child was still trying to get milk from the mother. And I remember a mother carrying a headless child. So the child's head was cut off because of, I don't know, probably the blast of a cannon fire, gunfire, it could be anything. But I still remember seeing those people who were dead and who were dying, and still we needed to survive. So in the wartime, you would normally never step on a dead body, but in order for us to survive, all those morals and ethics, all the things we just didn't have enough energy to think about those things.
Hearing that story just gave me the chills.
Yeah, you know, although none of us are at that milestone of parenthood, hearing about it is just so heartbreaking.
Yeah, I can't imagine having to be a mother and going through that.
Yeah, like, that's just crazy. They went through, it's just traumatic.
Yeah, and Mr. Iha sharing his story, he was only 7 years old and he remembered everything. We're college age and I don't know if we remember everything so well.
Very true. You know, it's just heartbreaking. I think that's the word that summarizes the whole story. Like, it's just so sad and heartbreaking to witness the connection between the mother and child. It's just, yeah, heartbreaking.
June 23rd is recognized end of the war due to the Japanese General Mitsuru Ushijima committing suicide on Mabuni Hill in Itaman. However, the unfortunate truth is that General Ushijima is said to fight to the death. So his death serves as a contradiction to his own motto. Thus, June 23rd, although recognized as the end of the war, was not the actual end of the war. Suicide still happened even after the bombing. In every part of Okinawa, the battle had culminated on different days following General Ushijima's suicide. The civilians had taken days to trust that the battle was over. Even after June 23rd, many young Himiyuri student nurses committed suicide by jumping off cliffs. By the end of the war, bodies were laid across and buried in the caves and forests of Okinawa.
沖縄でのみんな戦争で亡くなった死んだね。で同級生からうちの親戚からたくさんの人が死んだけど、本当に目をつぶってあの人の顔が思い出し、この顔が思い出しして、私のいとこなんかもみんな思い出して、これが本当にいつもこうして祈ってるよ本当に。
Wow, so out of everyone who was a part of Himeyuri, some of them could have actually been Chiyo's classmates growing up. And these Himeyuri girls, they were forced to become nurses, others were forced to become soldiers. And I guess what some people didn't realize is that they didn't really have training or experience. They were just kind of thrown into it.
Yeah, being thrown into war as a nurse and not having any medical training must have been really hard for them.
I don't even know what I would do. I don't think I'd be able to handle like the atrocities of war. It's just so sad.
With so many atrocities happening everywhere around them, I would be very disturbed. I would probably have to get therapy, but I don't think that was available at that time. I think the only options were either to survive and deal with the memories, or to commit suicide. But those tragic experiences that the survivors went through, I can't imagine myself in their shoes.
You know, being thrown into the chaoses of war at such a young age is so hard, and seeing all those dead bodies in the front lines, it's just, I can't imagine it being one of those nurses. You know, I think I empathize with Chiyo, and I'm really in awe of her strength to go on and share her memories with us.
After the fighting ceased, nothing remained, and therefore, everything had to be rebuilt from scratch. The struggles of survival, the rebuilding of civilization and society, and the communal experience shared by all the citizens. These people had to have hope, finding significance within the smallest things, little bundles of joy, such as playing folk songs on the kankara sanshin. The kankara sanshin is an important part of the rebuilding of Okinawa. This instrument was built from metal cans, parachute strings, leftover wood, and whatever else they could incorporate from the destruction. Having lost everything in the war, and surrounded by the anxiety of post-war life, the people placed their Uchinanchu spirit in the singing and playing of the kankara.
We will now have Jacob Higa and Travis Nitta playing an Okinawan favorite, Tingsagu no Hana. This song speaks about the wisdom of our parents and ancestors and how we must listen to them. We too must hear these stories in order to be able to pass them along so that they are never forgotten. The stories that we have heard have helped us to become cognizant of the realities of war. Hearing the survivors' experiences firsthand has helped us to realize how life was so different for the Okinawan people and how we need to remember these stories to avoid taking peace for granted.
ここを渡るときに僕らは小さいですから、またがれないんですね。もう人いっぱい死んでるから、人の死んでる大きいお腹をね、踏んで渡りました。
Because I was a small kid, I actually had to find the dead body's belly to move on to walk, make a path for us. Otherwise, I would be buried between the dead bodies.
Wow, so Mr. Higa just shared his story of his journey and passing over so many corpses. If I had to find a word to describe that, it would probably be surreal.
I can't reconcile walking on that bridge through all the dead bodies and with the possibility of being shot at any time. Those memories that Mr. Higa shared with us at a young age is so vivid and very tragic.
It's quite insane to think that he was only 7 years old, yet he remembers all these memories of crossing these bridges and all of the times he could have died on that bridge.
Yeah, even with his very descriptive stories, I still could never comprehend how he made it through that situation.
だいたいもう4月の2日からみんな避難して、で4月3日の3日にはかかずの集落に釜が打ち込まれてね、下から。で真久港ありますけど、そこはですね、1500の艦船がひめいてると、海にはかかずの下の海には。
On April 2nd, we left Kakazu, and on April 3rd, there was a big cannon from the U.S. military that were fired to Kakazu area on the day after we left Kakazu. And there's a port in Makiminato, just 10 minutes away from Kakazu. There were about 1,500 U.S. military ships with cannons.
そしてかかずは4月3日にはかやぶきの家が焼けましたので、この家が焼かへん。4月3日にはこういう大きいですから、釜が落ちたら完全に焼けるんですね。
So on April 3rd, when all those cannon fires were here, all those traditional style houses were burned down because of the cannon fires and all the battles between the Japanese and U.S. military.
みんな4月もう3日以後ですね、避難してます。私のお家は4月の6日に避難しました。
Kakazu residents left, most of Kakazu residents left Kakazu on April 2nd, but our family actually left the area on April 6th. We are one of the latest ones to leave Kakazu.
でこの七十淵釜にですね、最後のみんな避難して400名のうちですよ。みんな南部の方へ避難してきました。もう中泊まりからこの辺は全部米軍がいますので、みんな北側に行けないんですね。みんな南部の方へ、激戦の方へ追いやられました。で、最後まで残ったら30名がこのガバに残りました。避難しないで。残ったのが皆さん。
We left Kakazu to move to Chijifuchagama, the cave in Urasoe. There were about 400 people staying there, but the battles were getting harsh and harsh, so we needed to move from Chijifuchagama, the cave, and move to the south because northern part is getting occupied by the U.S. military because they landed in Chatan Yomita, the northern mid point of Okinawa, and there were 400 people in Chijifja cave, and most of the people moved to the south for a safer place. But there were about 30 people who decided to stay in Chijifjagama, and Fumie's family was one of them.
この人たちは後でどこが住まかれます。
And
11名たちだったそうですね。梅さんがいたのは。
So 30 people stayed there and in Chijifja cave, and they've got a toxic gas from the U.S. military, and only 11 survived. Fumie actually left the room, so we cannot ask her what the experience was like.
で、ここはですね、一番いいんですね。真ん中でこの水が、川が流れてるんですよ。水が豊富に。今でもですね、入れますけれども、もう滝のように水が流れます。ボンボン、下の方に。だから昔、この郷に400名いても、便所のようにそうしない。もうトイレはですね、奥の方に作って、水洗トイレで作ってましたね。
The Chijifja cave was actually a good shelter because we had a lot of fresh water, and it could host 400 people, and we were okay in the cave in this Chijifjagama. 次行きましょう。
はい。それでですね、我々は4月、みんな逃げるときには食料もたんといきませんよね、食べ物。で、みんな逃げていきますから。戦争ですから、煙とかそういうの、鍋なんか持てませんから、持っていったのは砂糖ですね。それから味噌、それから塩、でんぷんですね。それから平麦、塩もいったかな。これだけ持って僕らはみんな避難してきました。みんなそれです。
When we left Chijifjagama, we were expecting a long walk for several days. So we wanted to carry a lot of food with us, but during the war, there's not enough supply of the food. So all of the families were carrying sugar, miso, salt, and potato starch, and to survive. Mugi to survive.
で、これだけ持ってですね、じゃあ何に使うかといったら、味噌はやけどをしたら、戦争で弾が飛んできますので、こういうような、この破片ですね、この破片は弾が爆発したら、これは地面に落ちたらこれ回転するんですよ、こうやって。回転。ばっかりやって。
The reason why we were carrying miso was actually for first aid, because we would get burned from bomb explosion, and when the bomb explodes, the pieces like this is really heavy. This would hit you in the body, or it would be still on the ground spinning. So we could, a lot of us got hurt from these pieces.
僕もあと捕虜の時はやけどしてこうやってこうなんていうんですか。これついてたんですね。
I actually got burned from a blast of cannon fire, and I don't know if you could see this, but I still have a scar here.
頭も足もですね。
So
頭、足、背中。
got injured in head, and the back, and the leg.
その時に味噌を持ってるもんです。最初は味噌をつけて水ぶくれを小さくする。
So I put miso on the burnt area just as first aid.
可能性。そしてその後にもう味噌がなくなったら塩を使います。
And when we ran out of miso, we used salt to cover the burnt area.
だから僕の行く時に味噌と塩持ってんか僕は生きてなかったんですね。だいたい3日ぐらいしたら牛が起こってる。傷口が牛ね。
Mr. Iha and Auntie Fumi were super fortunate to find that cave and to have each other.
I can't imagine the experiences that they went through in the cave. It's just, I mean, the trauma that they experienced.
Yeah, they were fighting for their lives. Although they were fortunate with the cave that they got. The trauma that came later on was truly traumatic.
They're wanting to prepare themselves to survive for days on end.
Yeah, they were really strategic about the foods that they brought. I would have never thought that miso would be one of the key foods during the war to carry along.
You know, after hearing Mr. Iha's story and reflecting back on my life, I think we live in a paradise. Like, we don't have to worry about like war or bombs or starvation. Like, almost all of us will never have survivor's guilt, and being the one that makes it and when the others don't. You know?
Oh yeah. Mr. Iha's interview definitely talked about the fear of living in the caves, but I was surprised by Emma's interview because it wasn't just fear, but Emma's mother and uncle experienced boredom since they were forced to be quiet. But at least at night, they were able to go out and forage for food.
My mom said that one of the things that she used to like to collect was the oyster shells or oysters, and they would tap them lightly on a rock, and Okinawan rocks are pretty sharp in most places, and they could just crack it open, and they would eat that. And my mom said that there was something slimy in the oyster, and she'll get it out, and she looked at it and she goes, "Oh, how pretty!" But she threw that away because what is she going to do with it? And she said, "Oh, only if I knew how much those little pearls were worth back then." And she would tell that story with a big smile. She saw something funny during that scary time. She was only 12.
Do you know what is this? Hono grass in Hawaii said. This one, your clothes catch this one or stuck on your clothes. Maybe some of you know already. We ate this grass, all this grass. But this one, even now you can eat. Good. But this one, too much fiber. Can chew but cannot swallow. So when we eat this one, because no other grass we can find, only this one when we can find, but we cook and boil and chew, and then the swallow juice and the fiber take them out. And then we got a little bit rice from the Yona village, but that one no less 1 week. So after that, we had to find our own food, whatever we can find. But didn't have any own food because of mountain jungle, no grass, no weeds growing. Only we can see only pile of dry leaves.
During those times, people were really just scavenging to survive, trying to find food anywhere they could. Going out at night, trying to find oysters or eating weeds in the grass that they found.
I can't imagine just throwing away pearls. Like, now they're so expensive, and she was just throwing away so many of them because she just didn't know.
Yep, literally just tossing it into the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, pearls nowadays, like, if you look at any girl on the island, she's always wearing, like, shell bangles, pearl necklaces, anything. Like, they're so expensive.
And she was just throwing them away.
Exactly. I don't know. But I mean, we do have to like take into account like when this was. They were like war times. Like, I don't think you would want to be making bangles or shell necklaces or pearl necklaces, you know, during war. I think that's the last thing on your mind, you know?
Yeah, to think of everything they had to go through, it's pretty crazy to think that they just threw away things that we see as like commodities now. And that, like, for example, like Shigeko also mentioned that they would go outside and eat weeds, and it's mind-boggling to think, how did she know which ones were edible and how did she know which ones were poisonous?
Yeah, well, them having so much street smarts and being able, like you said, being able to know which weeds, what foods were edible, which are not, it truly shocks me.
Yeah, I would be afraid too because I wouldn't know what's edible.
取りに来たら自分たちも入っていたけれども、もうこんなにたくさんの人がこれごった返したこの石をうろうろしたら次爆弾を落とされるから、でうちの親父が判断でみんな公民館のそばの木の下にいてたんで、崖ってがここにも木が生えてるし、ここの道路沿いもあるし、もうみんな人いっぱいそこに反対側入るところないですから。で僕はじゃあこの道路から外内側に家民家のそばの東まで家のそれでも僕は被害を受けたんですね。でこう親戚の人に一人ここの道側で座ってるとまともにこう切り上げてましたね。それ。
So the community center was packed with the people who wanted a shelter. So my father said we shouldn't stay in the community center. So we left the community center and went to a house nearby with some trees so that even if a bomb was dropped from the sky, we could somehow survive. And I did survive, even though I got all the injuries and the burn, like my back and my hand and my leg. They got burned, and I did see people in the community center burned, and I think they died from the bomb and from the blast.
10分したらですね、この公民館の屋根の上に大きな爆弾が落ちて、大きなそこ穴が開いてですね、そこにみんな亡くなっちゃうんですね。僕らももうそれ親父がこれこんなにたくさんいたら危ないから、他の方に避難をした方がいいと言って避難して助けていただいて、一発です。
So 10 minutes after we left the community center, the bomb was dropped. So if my father didn't make this choice to leave the community center, and we wouldn't have been able to survive. And that because of the bomb, there was a big hole in the community center, and people in the community center didn't survive. I think it's my father's decision that saved my life.
で僕らの入ってる方に激戦地か傷を受けて兵隊5名来たんですよ。でみんなもう鉄砲も持ってね、ただ持ってる日本刀ですね、刀。あれを持って、あれを杖にして、患者の歩ければ杖にして、僕らの棒についてついたんですね。そしたら一番うちの娘、まだ1年8ヶ月やから、他に初めて見る人が来たものがもうわーわー泣いてですね、このままだったらこの米軍が見つかるから泣かすなと親父に言って、で親父はやれるけども泣く。そうしたらこの子供をよこすの結局もう抹殺ですね、よこせということ。そして親父がこの戦争はもう殺されると思ってるから、じゃあもううちの家族はもうこれから生きるあれはないですから、家族一緒に全員処分してくださいと隊長に願い入れたんですね。
So in the shelter, we were hiding together with the family and the relatives. There were 5 injured Japanese soldiers. 5 Japanese soldiers came. They found the shelter. They wanted to hide in the shelter. But my little sister, who was back then 1 year and 8 months old, was really scared because, you know, as a baby, you get panicked. So she started crying when she saw the Japanese soldiers. but the soldier, she wouldn't stop crying, and the soldiers really wanted to make sure she's quiet. Otherwise, U.S. military would find this shelter, right? And U.S. military might find us. So the soldiers said, "Stop her, make her stop crying." And my father tried to stop her crying. Of course, it doesn't work. And one of the soldiers said, "Give me your daughter. That means we are gonna kill your daughter," so that she would stop crying. But my father, back then, we didn't think we could survive. So my father asked the Japanese soldiers, "If you're gonna kill my daughter, you have to kill us all."
そう言ったら、じゃあ、家族全員、壕の外に出されたんですね。そうしてひざまずかされて、一人の兵って刀をこう持ってるんですね。はい、です。
So when he said that, the Japanese soldiers took us out from the cave, from the shelter, and made us knee down, like lined up. All the family members lined up, and the soldiers had a sword, Japanese sword, ready to cut off our heads.
で、そうしたらですね、ちょうど刀を振り上げてる時に、敵の様子を見に行った健康の人が帰ってきたんですよ。体調危ないから、ここからすぐ何本もっと移動しないといけないということで、刀をパッパッと刺して逃げていったんですね。もしあの時のこの手がいたら僕らはもう全滅だったよ。米兵が捕虜の人をされてたんですが、この人がおそらく捕虜にせなかったんじゃないかなと思いますね。危機一髪でした。
So when the Japanese soldier was about to cut off our heads, another new soldier came with the news that the U.S. military soldiers were nearby, so we had to run. Thanks to that soldier's information, all the Japanese soldiers left and we didn't get killed. If this information came like 30 seconds late or 1 minute late, we would have been killed by the Japanese soldier.
はい、危機一髪で命は助かってですね、そのしばらく、翌日の11時、6月19日の11時にアメリカが毒ガスを撒いて、捕虜を拷問をったんですね、毒ガス。で、子供4名ですから、親父が手をだけ押さえて、僕はあまりにも苦しいもんですから、払いのけたらですね、捕虜になって半年声が出なかったですね。
So the next day, U.S. military shot toxic gas into our shelter. So my father tried to put towels against the children's faces so the kids wouldn't inhale the gas, but I was suffocating, so I resisted, and I think I inhaled some of the gas, and 6 months after that, for 6 months, I lost my voice because of the gas.
Guys, Mr. Iha almost died 3 times. Can you believe that? 3 times? I mean, maybe luck was on his side.
I just think his dad had really good instincts where he was able to read the situation and get his 4 kids out, like, before bad things happened. Yeah, so his dad single-handedly saved his life 3 different times.
We're very fortunate that Mr. Iha with us after the war. There were so many people that died in the battle following the community shelter bombing, and if there was a family behind that rock.
Yeah, we can't forget about how perfectly timed the other soldier was running into the cave when the Japanese soldier had Mr. Iha and his other siblings down on the floor with a sword to his neck.
Yeah, these stories were his reality. It's pretty insane for Mr. Iha to still be here with us today. and to be able to be in the situation where we were able to have interviewed him for this event.
でそこの道に出たらしばらくしてからアメリカのこの兵隊がジープに乗って来たわけですよ。それでお母さんと私の母が一緒に芋を探しにと言ってこう歩いていたらこのジープがそばから止まって「あんたこのジープに乗りなさい」と言うんですよ。で私はもうブルブル震えてもうパッとどうしたらいいかねと思って考えたことがこれに乗ったら私はもうレイプされるねと思って怖いわけですね。それで急にこうやってうちはしゃがんで下にしゃがんでもうお腹が痛い痛い痛いとこうやって見せたんですよ。痛い痛いしてながらそうやってずっと見つけていたのこのらしいよこの兵隊たちがねかわいそうと思ったのか。でお母さんはずっとブルブル震えながら私をもうどうしたらいいかねと思って心配しながらずっと私が痛い痛いやってるもんだからこの人たちはしばらく見てずっと前の方まで車行ってずっと止めて見ていたそうですわ。まだこんなにやってるかねって見てやってるんだからあとはそのまま行ってしまったわけよ兵隊は。かわいそうと思ったのかずっと前の方で見てまだこんなに痛い痛いしてるのを見てからかわいそうと思ったのがその兵隊たちはみんな前に進んでいなくなったわけですよね。助かりましたほっとしましたよ。
You know, the history books don't teach these or convey these emotions. The fear of being raped, the invasion of privacy, and for Chio, any of the military members could have been a potential rapist in her eyes.
Yeah, her smart thinking really saved her. Chio narrowly avoided a dangerous situation with a clever idea and making sure to keep up the charade till the threat was imminent.
These women are dealing with more than just the war. There's always an added layer of fear when you always have to worry about something like this happening.
Yeah, knowing that rape is still a problem today, I can't imagine her having to live with that fear on top of like the fears of war and the fears that come with war. I think it's so overwhelming.
U.S. soldiers was waiting, and then they shoot the full of refugees. And then this time, anybody tried to run away, and then full of road, and they tried to escape, just like a stampede. And then backside people now going back where they said they were front, like us was the middle of the crowd. And then I was carrying my sister, heavy. So people was pushing from back, and I fell. And the front people didn't move. People pushing from back. So I fell with my sister on the back. So I couldn't get up because people go on my back, my sister, until everybody passed. So that time, we were separated from my family, my mother, my brothers. And then the enemy was still shooting, and then fire flame on the sky, and just like a daytime can see. Just somehow I crawled, go into the bush, and then so I couldn't see my family. Tried to call, and then it was wrong family. And separated, completely separated from my family, and only my sister and I. And then, didn't eat, was tired, and then in the, Adam, what you call, beach, in Hawaii, beachside, Tony leaves.
Leaves?
The plant.
The coconut tree?
Just again. Oh, Lauhala tree.
Oh, yeah.
That is a Tony, yeah?
Yeah.
So underneath Lauhala tree, try to hide. And then somehow was so tired, I not supposed to sleep, but I fall asleep. And then my sister said, I'm so stomach. And I tried to give not rice, just pot of rice. Try to give, and then fall asleep. And then I could hear man's voice. And then, that is a last night Japanese soldiers came to help us. So I was happy.
Oh.
And then that was still dark, early morning. And then I heard, that is a different than Japanese language. And then, this is not Japanese soldier. What happened? And then when I look at behind, blue eyes and a deep helmet, and then gun focusing us with a rifle. Not only one soldier, 10 of them. And then push my head, took us to roadside, push my head, and then they said, sit down. And then they tried to give me candy. And then I didn't take. And then one of soldier took candy from my hand, and then he ate. Just like this is not poison. But I didn't want the enemy's candy. And then they took us the roadside and they pushed my head and they with gun. And then I said, no way, I'm gonna get the prisoner. If I decided myself, even they kill me, I don't want to get prisoner. So when they were 10 of us, 10 of the soldiers was the circle, we were in the middle, and then talking story. I was short there, they are tall. So when they were talking, and between, and I sneak out, and they ran. And then I thought, even they shoot, I don't care. Just run and run and run. But now, problem, my family went forward or went backward. No idea. So what I should do? If backward we go, and then we'll die with starvation because no food in the mountain. And then I just keep moving, and then I saw one rattle on the road, and that was my father. My mother was carrying because with other utensils together, and then make was cheap. So I saw cheap utensil. Oh, my family went back, and then now went back. I understand, but how far, left or right? That is we're gonna dead or alive if cannot find. And then on the left side, grass side, I found a piece of material, and the material was, American soldiers, when they put their clothes or they have a big bag, yeah?
Yeah.
Did you ever see? With the
It's huge, right?
yeah, with the metal round thing around, and that was now I introduce my grandfather. My grandfather lived in Honolulu, and he sent things, clothing, foods, put in that kind of a bag. He sent to Okinawa after war. So didn't have anything right after war. So my mother made clothing for my brothers, and then the top metal part couldn't use this, so I just left behind. But when we went to Yambaru, she used that one to tie clothing. She carried both sides on the shoulder. Pots and pans and then clothing. So that one I found in the forest mountain. And my family went this side, this forest. So we just keep going into jungle. And then, maybe mistake, wrong place. But to start worrying, but keep going, moving. And then, what we should do? Then we stop. And then, meantime, the people came out. My mother came out. And then we hug, and then we cry. And then she said, we thought you folks died with a gunshot. Today, that early morning, she said, leave my two brothers in the back, and then she was coming to our side to find our body, because she thought we were dead, because so much gunshot. And then didn't meet with the family. So gunshot, and we are dead on the road, she thought.
There has been so much loss in the battle. Many families had committed suicide or died from the attacks of the battle. So to think that their loved ones had died has become so inevitable during their time.
Yeah, Miss Nakasone's mother, I can't imagine the heartache that she went through. To lose a child and then to find out she's alive, I mean, it's almost short of a miracle.
I think it was a huge roller coaster of emotions and like extreme emotions of like being so heartbroken that your daughter is dead and then to find out that she's alive and to be like so overjoyed.
We're very fortunate that Miss Nakasone survived the battle and is willing to share her stories in order to promote peace.
Yeah, I agree, Jacob. Especially since, so many people are still missing from that time period.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that people still haven't been found and names are still being written on the cornerstones of peace.
Our cover background for this year's event, it's the infinite flame with the ripples of names that resemble Okinawa's spreading of peace.
Yeah, the symbolic concept of the eternal flame signifies peace. And it means so much to the Okinawan people. The goal of bringing everlasting peace for all generations to come is something that they all hold so deeply and really meant all these interviews.
兄の子供が私の写真を持ってこの人どこにいるかとあちこち探して行ってあとこのテントに来たんですよ。私が戦争体験してるから今からの若い人たちが今はとってもいい時代になりましたね。何でも手に入る食べるもの何でも贅沢にある。だけどそれがいつまで続くか必ず続けないだろうと思う。そこに強く生きることですよ。何でも乗り越えていくこと。
Chio was so very fortunate that her nephew had a photo of her, and that's what had led her to have a very successful life, I would say, after the war, and that it led her to really prosper a lot more.
I think it's truly a testament to family and how before then her and her nephew never even met before, and just by chance that they were at the same camp that he was able to connect her as a family member and be able to provide her the food that she needed to survive.
I just think it's nice that with all these interviews that we've been listening to and all the suffering that we've been hearing about through this war, it's nice to hear something good, like these two reuniting.
Yeah, this one after post-war, after we in the prison, Ishikawa prison camp, and the Coca-Cola bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And then halfway is you can see the line, yeah? Coca-Cola bottle, and then when you see the, telephone, electric wire, small, tiny wire in there. Take off that one, and then the two people use Coca-Cola bottle halfway, and the two people, and the hot. That when keep doing that, come hot, and put in the water right away, and then that one separate, and the top you throw away, bottom water cup. That one we were using as a cup to drink water.
That's very resourceful.
Yeah. So we the people right after war didn't have anything. So people try to slowly back to peaceful time.
Although there are a lot of trauma during the war, there are a lot of little memories or short memories that the Okinawan people, these survivors, had remembered from the battle.
Yeah, I think all these little wholesome, these memories are so wholesome, these happy moments throughout the war, that people were able to find these happy moments and appreciate them throughout this really traumatic time.
Well, as long as it's been a long time since the war ended, and Shigeko was still able to like remember these small little life hacks that she like learned during the war.
Yeah, these life hacks, such as the Coca-Cola bottle, are stories of bringing joy and are memories that had stayed with her to bring out hope and had, out of all the atrocities that happened around her, it was these memories that she decided to share with us rather than everything else that was happening.
Yeah, I'm very grateful she shared these smaller memories because I believe that sometimes it's the small things that we need to enjoy in life.
あったっていうよりはね、私は全然辛いってこと分からないの。覚えてないっていうよりはね、みんなに可愛がられたもんだからね、スポイルはしてないけど、お姉さんだからね、やっぱり敬わないといけない。敬ってね、あれだったから、別にお姉さん2つ上でもお姉さんでねやってたからね、の絶対あれじゃなかったね、あれは。
I'm surprised there were some people that didn't have to experience any tragedy or loss during the battle.
Yeah, it's kind of weird hearing stories that didn't get affected from the war, because from all the other interviewees, they all were affected in some way by the war. So this is an unusual but a very touching circumstance.
Yeah. Why do you think in the middle of such devastation, someone could come out years later unaffected?
Well, I think it's a reflection of the sacrifices that their parents made for the kids to stay kids during this time.
Yeah, I think Miss Kobashigawa's story is a great example of family sacrifice. I think the lengths that they went through in order to shield Miss Kobashigawa from the war is truly amazing, I think. But, I mean, not everybody was as lucky as Miss Kobashigawa. Some people were so traumatized by the war that some people refused to talk about it or bury those moments of their life.
There were only a few that she told me. I think you have found that most people that were in that war don't like to talk about it. They said that it's in the past. They don't want to talk about it, but she was also one of those.
Oh yeah, remember Emma's interview where Emma's mother, she still shared her story, but generally she chose not to talk about what happened during the war, even though she remembered it.
Yeah, I definitely think talking about war is a very sensitive topic, and I think we should be grateful for those who are willing to share, but we also must understand the people that weren't willing to share their stories.
Yeah, wartime is just such a devastation. Nobody should be having to go through the wartime experience. And no one's able to really relate to it till they go through it. And I can't put it into words just how much the Okinawa people had suffered.
I agree, but I appreciate the survivors for sharing their stories, because we as a young generation were able to learn from their experiences.
Tonight, we only have enough time to share a few of the stories shared by the survivors and their families. During our interviews, we asked them why it's important for the younger generation to remember Irei No Hi.
How important is it to Mr. Iha to remember his experiences from the war, and what lesson would he like the younger generations to take away from his experience?
いいですか、まとめて。
質問なんですけど、これ戦争のことを思い出して伝えることの大切さって何ですか？
はい、ですね、戦争の当たり前の生活がですね、当たり前にできるようにするには、やはりこの子どもたちね、日頃から戦争の醜さ、怖さですね、破壊、そういうのをぜひ若者に伝えて、今後世界が平和、あるいは日本が平和になるようにですね、それをするために私は頑張ってます。自分の体験、苦労したことをですね、持っております。
I think our ordinary life is really precious, and the war destroys it. So I want younger generation to appreciate that our ordinary life is actually precious, and we just cannot go into the war again. So if the younger generation knows my experience, I think that's a lesson they can learn from me and protect. And I hope the younger generation can try hard to protect this peace we have. And again, not go into the war. It's just simply miserable. It's not humane.
今のコロナウイルスと同じでですね、当たり前の日常生活、当たり前にできないですよね。もうそれ以上の厳しかった戦争は、食べるものもないし、もうすべてがですね、命の保証もないし、ですからぜひ命を守る、命の大切さですね、沖縄の方言で、ぬちる宝ということで、命が大事ですよと、そういう言葉をですね、信じて私は若い者たちにですね、意識を高め、一人でも多く高めようかな。
We are experiencing coronavirus right now, right? So you know how it changed our lives. Our normal life is not normal anymore, and the war is just worse version of that. Like everything is changed. We are not sure if we're gonna be alive the next day. So there's a word in Okinawan. It says "nuchidu takara." Life is the treasure. So we have to protect our lives, and as long as we survive, as long as we live, that we can create the future. So I hope the younger generation appreciates life in this ordinary life, so that we can keep this ordinary, but that's a precious ordinary life, which is precious for us. That's the reason why I keep sharing my story with younger generation.
沖縄で20万の戦死者なんですけどね、沖縄で亡くなったの。しかし日本の兵隊、また広島、長崎、原爆が落ちましたですね。あれも含めると310万人が尊い命がなくなったんですよ。第二次大戦で310万人、兵隊も住民も含めて。
More than 3 million people in Japan lost their lives during World War II, including the victims of atomic bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So 3 million people. That's like the war just sacrifices so many lives. I think that's the story I wanted to share with you.
とにかく皆さんみたいな若いのがですね、ぜひこういうふうな戦争の怖さ、そういうものをですね、ぜひ若い者に伝えていただいて、我々はもう80越しますから、残された皆さん方のやりをよりってですね、戦争が起きるか起きないかをですね、これは決まりますので、ぜひそういう面で頑張って世界平和のためにですね、平和って簡単に言いやすいですけど、やはり大変です。
So, I'm 80 years, more than 80 years old. You, the younger generation, you create the future. You decide if there will be another war like this or not. So I really want younger people like you, young people like you to think about peace. It's really easy to say world peace, but if you understand the reality or the challenges I experienced in the war, I think you or younger generation can make a right choice for the world peace.
平和でいいですか？平和で豊かな世界中のどこの人も真に人間らしく生きることを心を持たせ、戦争の恐ろしさですか、悲しさを体験、そして若い者に語り継ぐ。
Maybe just one last message from me is that for the peaceful world, across the globe, and for everyone on Earth to have a hopeful, to have hope. I want to share my experience with younger generation that will lead to a peaceful world where everybody can live a humane life. So that's the message from me.
そのために頑張ってます。
That's why
活動してます。
that's why I share my stories with younger generation.
まあ戦争っていうのはね、やっぱり人を殺そうね、あれするじゃないですか。あんなことがないようにね、もう世の中はみんなで仲良くやって、みんななんていうかな、なんて言ったらいいかな、あれ仲良くやっていってほしい。あれでいいですか。
Yeah. So what she's saying is, you know, when you say senso or war, it's about
people
about
kill
killing
something, yeah.
So
you know, just nothing and they go kill it. That's kind, you know. So I don't like that kind. So everybody, you know, nice, you know. 違う人種であろうが何であろうがね、人間だからみんなあれが一番大事かな。
So what say it doesn't matter what nationality or what, you know, ethnicity you are. It shouldn't matter. We are all humans. So that's what is important too.
どこの人種であろうがね、人間だから、私はもう誰とでももう会うようになってるからね、会うようにっておかしいけど、どの人種だから何だから絶対あんなこと考えたことないですよ。
She said she gets along with everybody in the world.
みんなsame people.
Same. All same people. All same humans.
私が戦争体験してるから、今からの若い人たちが、今はとってもいい時代になりましたね。何でも手に入る、食べるもの何でも贅沢にある。だけどそれがいつまで続くか、必ず続けないだろうと思う。そこに強く生きることですよ。何でも乗り越えていくこと。沖縄でのみんな戦争で亡くなった死んだね。で同級生からうちの親戚からたくさんの人が死んだけど、本当に目をつぶってあの人の顔が思い出し、この顔が思い出しして、私のいとこなんかもみんな思い出して、これが本当にいつもこうして祈ってるよ。
Because so many Okinawan people sacrificed by this past war, and then because we suffered so much wartime, and then dead or alive, that kind of situation. So I don't want young people to same war experience. I don't want young people to do that kind of war experience. That's why peace is very important. I hope all connect to Okinawa and world peace. Never war again.
It's very important because, you know, when you hear about a war, you hear about soldiers and how they had to get through the war. But the Battle of Okinawa was basically the citizens of Okinawa had to endure a lot. You know, for instance, you know, people had to hiding in haka or caves. They didn't have much to eat. A lot of them were bullied by the Japanese soldiers. And they were told that if you get caught by the U.S. soldiers, you'll be raped, you'll be killed. So when you get caught, you better do the right thing by killing yourself. So they believe that. So a lot of families would kill each other so this wouldn't happen to them. In Kerama Island, they had a mass suicide because of that. And in Okinawa, there was on the southern part of Okinawa, the school kids were used for the war. So I think it's really important. All this is discussed and told, and also that there are a lot of bones and bodies that are still in the ground. They haven't been discovered since the war. They haven't been put into their resting place. There are a lot of that too. And for that, we need to have Irei No Hi to console them, console the souls that haven't been discovered and put into the proper resting place for them.
We have to always remember what the survivors had suffered through during the Battle of Okinawa. Collectively, from these interviews, we're able to understand that peace runs deep with the Okinawan people, and that these stories of hardships should not be ignored or repeated. Although they may not have shared with us everything that they had experienced, we must say thank you and help spread their wanting of peace to others and the generations after us. We must also strive to maintain our society so we won't have to live through the same experiences they have shared. I think I can speak for all of us when I say that hearing all these stories and learning about the Battle of Okinawa from more than just a history book has brought a new form of enlightenment. This experience has taught us something and truly brought us into the reality of the world that we live in. And saying the cornerstone for our phrase, Kaji Deburu, we are who we are because of you.
Yeah, these are the stories that should be remembered and has made Okinawa what it is today.
Yeah, definitely. I think that hearing about all these stories has brought a new perspective to us on life and war, and especially why Okinawans strive for peaceful times. I can't imagine the heartache that Okinawan people have had to go through.
Yeah, I think before we began this project, we all were a bit unknowledgeable about this event. We saw the idea of war being only about deaths, but now we know there's so much more than that.
Yeah, it's crazy to think of how much life had changed and what they felt like normalcy for 3 months.
When you think about war, you think about how the soldiers are affected. Sometimes you forget how deeply civilians are impacted.
I think it's crazy how skipped over the Battle of Okinawa was. In textbooks and in school, we don't learn about it that much, even though it was one of the deadliest wars in the Pacific Theater. We spend a lot of time unpacking events that happened in other countries, but we don't really focus on the Battle of Okinawa. And I think by having the 5 of us go through this experience and listen to all the interviews, it really gave us like almost a first-hand look at what the battle was really like and how bad it actually was.
Yeah, and the younger generation should continue to learn about the Battle of Okinawa. And we need to learn from multiple perspectives, because if not, how will we know the facts about how war impacts everyone?
To think about how much loss the Okinawan people had suffered through. It truly is crazy to think how minuscule our stressors in our normal lives are, be it academically or with our friends and family. The triumphs that the Okinawan people had gone through is beyond comparable to anything that we do today.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, like Cheyne said about how hearing all these stories like really changed our perspective on life. I think that's such an important factor to consider, because before this, I mean, we couldn't even put ourselves in the shoes of these people that experienced like these war times. We've never been in a war. It's nothing like we've ever seen before.
To think of everything that they had endured, it's insane to think of how complacent we have become as a society. We live in a world where there's idea of normalization of these events in movies, but rather we don't see the application of it in our daily lives.
Yeah, the world we live in today is nothing like the world that they lived in back then. And although I can't relate to any of these experiences, I think it's so important to understand what Mr. Iha, Ms. Hisanaga, Ms. Nakasone, and Ms. Kobashigawa went through, so that we can understand the reasons they are who they are, and why Okinawans in general strive for peaceful times. Because, war brings out the worst in people and, sparks horrible atrocities.
Yeah, I think we're very lucky to live in a time of peace.
These experiences and stories from the survivors really emphasize the phrase that is always repeated to us. We must learn about the past so that we're not doomed to repeat it.
As we take to heart these stories from these interviewees, we are able to understand the significance of Irei No Hi and the traumas that these people had gone through. These traumas and hardships are our foundation, a foundation that should never be forgotten or disregarded. The generation should never forget the sacrifices and the devastation that these people lived through. In Uchinanguchi, this expression of togetherness is known as Chimogukuru Tichi. The Day of Memorial serves as a reminder of what it means to be Uchinanchu, to always persevere and perpetuate peace. We must always remember what has happened, collect these memories, and cherish the Okinawan spirit. Uchinanchu nu Chimogukuru.
事さかき一丁さ金沙湖の花の歌のごとやのゆしごとやちのにすみき一万人たげに英語の花やうちなの花うちなの白浜やあんちょらさいかて海の青さにぬにんたとだらんうちなの白浜やあんちょらさいかてうちなのちょらさや島の宝うちなんちゅのちもごころまさきちゅらさうちなんちゅのちもごころまさきちゅらさうちなんちゅのちもごころまさきちゅらさ
So growing up here, I didn't really learn much about the battle in school. The one thing that I was able to learn from is our trip to Okinawa in 2015 with HUOA Okinawa Creative Arts, where we had visited the Peace Memorial Park, and we were able to read the stories and see all the names on the cornerstones of peace. And also visiting Himeyuri, where we were able to read all the stories of the nurses. And from that experience and from this experience, it brought the humanity to war. And it really brought the emotion, and it really brought meaning to the war beyond the statistics that we learn in school and about the military perspective. And from that, I was able to learn that the real meaning behind peace is through these stories, so that the hardships aren't ever repeated again.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. So I think we had some technical difficulties with audio, so I'm just going to repeat the intro again. Hello, everyone. My name is Olivia Shizuhiga. I am a proud Uchinanchu, and this summer I'm interning with HUOA United Okinawa Association. I'm so grateful to be able to join you today, and thank you all for creating such a wonderful event. It meant a lot to be able to listen to these impactful and powerful stories. And also thank you for all of you watching from home. Some of you had questions about whether you'll be able to watch this later, and we did record the event and we'll be uploading it shortly, so please don't worry. And コメントを残してくれた、シンナ西山さん、ジュリー・ヒガさん、タイブ・ハーナンさん、本当にありがとうございます。And from now, we are going to start a short live Q&A session to learn more about the process from the creators of tonight's program. So we'll start with Cheyne. This year is special in that we are commemorating Irei No Hi through the eyes of the younger generation. So what motivated you to create and participate in a program like this?
Thanks, Chizu. I chose to partake in this program because I want to learn more about my culture so that when I go to events such as Okinawan Festival, I will feel more connected to everyone around me because I believe we all share this history together.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, Amanda, so for me growing up in California, we were really only ever taught about Pearl Harbor, and the Japanese were always depicted as the bad guys. And then once you got to high school, we maybe got a sentence or two about Japanese internment camps. But the war was experienced very differently for Uchinanchu families, as you heard tonight. So I'm curious if growing up in Hawaii, were these stories that you grew up learning about, whether in school or through your family?
So growing up here, I didn't really hear much about the battle when I was growing up. I only really started to learn about the battle during our trip in 2015 with HUOA Okinawa Creative Arts, when we had visited Peace Memorial Park and the Himeyuri, where we were able to see all the names of those who had died on the cornerstones of peace, and also reading all the stories at Peace Memorial Park and at Himeyuri. And it really brought the perspective, and also through this project, it really brought the perspective of the civilians and how we always learn about the statistics and everything else about the military perspective, but there isn't really much talking about the civilians and the emotional toll. So it really brought the humanity to war.
Yeah, I'm so glad you had that opportunity, and hopefully we start teaching more of these stories in schools as well. Now, Kyra, given the opportunity to be part of such an impactful project and as a young Uchinanchu, I'm wondering what you see as your role in preserving history and peace moving forward.
Yeah, so I think this was such a great opportunity for all of us to get involved with Irei No Hi, and I think reflecting back on the hardships that our people went through during the Battle of Okinawa, I think that our role is just to remember these stories and just pass them along, and just to make sure that they're never forgotten, because their hardships and sacrifices are what gave us this amazing life that we have today.
Yeah, that's an important reminder. And now, Jacob, so Hawaii has a very unique relationship to Okinawa, and that's why you're able to have wonderful organizations like HUOA. So as a young Uchinanchu leader in Hawaii, how might you use this unique kinship to prevent another Battle of Okinawa from ever happening again?
Here in Hawaii, we have the term Aloha Spirit.
In essence, it's the need and want to help each other out. Friends, family, or even a stranger you see in traffic. Similarly, in Okinawa, they have there's an Uchinaguchi phrase, "Ichari bachore." Once we meet, we are family. These two phrases have very common concepts. It's our duty as society to always help each other because we are one community. And as the younger generation and one of the future leaders of the Uchinanchu community here in Hawaii, it's my duty to help preserve these stories and continue to learn more about the Battle of Okinawa and the tragedies that the Okinawan people had to go through.
Yeah, that's aloha spirit in Ichari Bachode. Let's always remember that. And now to end on a hopeful note, Maddie, I imagine that our grandparents and ancestors hope that we never have to experience the same type of pain and suffering that they endured. So instead, what kinds of stories and memories do you hope to be able to pass on to your kids and grandkids? And in other words, what are the dreams and aspirations you have that are made possible because of the sacrifices of our elders?
Yeah, I mean, I loved hearing these stories from all of our interviewees. It was really interesting to hear their take on what happened. And I think it's important that we pass down these stories because they're not normal war stories that you hear, like Hacksaw Ridge. It's more of the civilian side, like Mr. Iha almost dying 3 times on his walk to get away from the war. And then even like Emma's mom's story about how she was throwing out the pearls, looking for food at night. Those are the stories that show what the normal people went through and how it affected their life. And us being normal people, it like shows that we should educate the next generation on this so they can prevent things like this from happening in their time.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jacob, do you want to take it away?
On behalf of all of us here, thank you to all of you for watching and learning with us tonight. We would also like to thank HUOA for giving us this great opportunity to learn more about the Battle of Okinawa and our ancestors. We would also like to send another huge shout out and thank you to the survivors and their families for sharing their stories with us and showing us that peace is always needed and that war is never the answer. We as a younger generation have to continue to learn these stories and learn about the battle to make sure the innocent lives are never lost. Thank you again, and Ipe Nihe Debiru.
One,
Thank you.
two, three.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ipe Nife Debiru.